see that they couldn't put things together. They couldn't really get political will together to act together and to have this change. You know, they gave me a book on Georgia reforms translated in Arabic, so they thought that was something they had to implement. But I've seen this, several governments in different countries having these books about Georgia reforms, but they never delivered. So it's not about books, it's not about blueprints. It's about them having political will to do so.
How were you able to summon up the political will, talking about political will now, to sack the entire police force and the customs?
We sacked the entire bureaucracy more or less, because more than 80% of all bureaucrats overall for all these years were replaced. And you know, once you get into this habit of corruption, it's really no coming back. It's really a psychological state, and it's once you know, okay, we had police that was not paid but was paying to get appointed. Now, of course, then they would get money back from the population. So if you are in that business, you can no longer go back to like normal pay of, say, $500 or $1,000 or $2,000, depending on their positions in the police force, the salaries that their officials were getting from us. Because these people were already, in a way, you get mentally handicapped by corruption once you are in that business. So there was no use to keep them. They were part of the problem rather than part of the solution. So we had to get rid of them, but the same concern over years. We did the same thing with customs service. You know, we had like 3 years attempts to reform customs service, then we understood it's useless. So we had to entirely change the concept and sack the old customs officers. So it's really a painful process, because if you're a small country, we're a 5 million people country, it's like we are much smaller, let's say it's the state of Lagos, and from that standpoint, these people whom you sack, they don't go anywhere. They live around your whether government or presidential palace. They come to protest, they throw stones at you, they have their own media, they stir up trouble, but that's normal. You know, you challenge, if you want to change your society, there is 10%, which is bureaucracy and core of this corrupt elite, that doesn't want change, that would resist any change. But they are not new numbers, 10%. They have media, they have money, they can reach out much more than their own core 10%. And so it's very much, you know, we have these people whom we sack, but many explain to the others that it's in their interests.
The power reforms in Georgia during your tenure as president was pretty much like what Nigeria is undergoing right now. How did Georgia go from darkness to light, in the manner of speaking?
Yeah, well, it was such a depressive thing for us. And I remember I just drove from the airport in Lagos, and suddenly what I remembered from our places at night when we would drive in Georgia, every house would be dark, no more light in any window. And suddenly this was for me deja vu. And I remember it was a very depressive period, and especially because it's also cold, can be cold in some places in Georgia in winter. We have 6 climatic zones, and some of them are in mountains. So, and it was really a very tough thing, because it's not only lights, but people had to heat their houses. And I remember there were lots of fires, and you know, there was the smell of kerosene, not only on the houses but also on people. So anyway, so how did we do it? Because the problem was, main problem was corruption, because from generating facility, first of all, to generate enough, corruption was stopping it. To get it to people from lines, construction lines, corruption was stopping it. Then distributing it to people, corruption was stopping it. Corruption was at every level. And so we, first of all, started free generation from corruption. We privatized lots of things. We privatized distribution, but only privatizing distribution didn't help, because then there were transmission lines that were still in government's hands, and there were lots of corrupt schemes. Like, for instance, there was electricity, but they would sell it to neighboring countries instead of giving it to the people. And they would earn money on people not having electricity instead of selling electricity and earning money in a normal way. That's the difference when the government bureaucracy is involved, because they create deficit and they capitalize on deficit. and of course, the sound of generators was very familiar sound to Georgian ears. So from that standpoint, we privatized the whole system. We did a strict regulation for the system not to be abused. And we also made sure that it's diverse supply from different sources, so that you don't even depend upon one source. Because last thing you want to do it to depend upon one source of supply of electricity. Because if you depend upon that, they will always blackmail you, either politically or commercially, or just for the sake of making your life difficult and earning bigger incomes.
Well, Georgia has become an investment destination. Well, 10 years ago, it was one of the poorest countries in Europe. What other systemic changes did you undertake that turned things around for Georgia?
Again, it's an issue of political will. Georgia indeed became, we had FDI in Georgia increased at least 20 times. Well, I mean, our overall nominal terms, our economy almost tripled in 9 years period. We had double-digit growth for most of the years of my administration. And this against the backdrop of world economic crisis and war with Russia and full-blown economic embargo from Russia. So it's quite an achievement for a small country. The way how we did it is that, first of all, we remodeled Georgia as a hub for the region, which is to say that we didn't have oil and gas, but we had something that the regional countries didn't have. We cut red tape. We eliminated 90% of all kinds of permits and licensing requirements. We didn't have crime because we really cracked down on crime, and we brought it down 5 or 6 times. We became one of the safest countries in Europe. We cut corruption, which basically brought it to one of the lowest levels in the world. Again, for sucking lots of bureaucrats, recruiting new ones, giving them higher salaries. And when we talk about simplifying procedures, Georgia has, according to the World Bank, world's fastest customs procedure, according to IFC, world's fastest company registration, world's fastest property transaction, world's fastest procedures in all kind of building licenses, etc. So what it means that in order if you go to Georgia and you want to have to build a big skyscraper, you need maximum 1 day to get permission, or if you can get passport in 5 to 6 minutes, or you can buy your cellular car in 2-3 minutes, just like you buy a product in a supermarket, or we have principle of one window, which is to say you go into one big space where everybody sees each other. By the way, all new government buildings were made of glass, so they were seen from outside what people were doing inside. Every office is from glass, that people can see each other. But also there is this big public service hall where you pay your taxes, you get your school certificate, you register your property, you see we have this public register where everything is very transparent, and you can in a few seconds get it online. So everything that, and then there are lots of agencies that were eliminated. There are lots of agencies that we thought.
Agencies like?
Like, for instance, sanitary inspection or fire inspection, or all kind of phytosanitary or all kind of standardization and quality control things, anti-monopolization service, all kind of people that, okay, theoretically they had noble cause, like we would want to have fires, but they just want going there and getting money from businesses for, otherwise they would shut them down, or they would say, we don't want your restaurant to poison customers, so we'll check the quality of meat. But in fact, nobody wants to poison their customers. It's just they were getting money from these poor restaurant owners so that they would leave them alone. So in a way, we should instinctively know that wherever there is bureaucrat discretion, whenever somebody's concrete person decides whether business should operate or not, whether permission should be given or not, he will always abuse. And so, a priori, we should make sure that there is as little discretion left for anybody in the government sector as possible. Government should be kept small but efficient. Big government is inefficient and corrupt. It's a universal rule for any country.
From scoring 98% and 6% in the 2003 elections, you were forced to leave government towards the end of your second term, with critics describing your government as corrupt and authoritarian. How did your government fall so far in the estimation of Georgians after all the reforms that you talked about?
I don't think anybody really seriously described us as corrupt. I think some extreme voices for new government tried it, but nobody buys it. Actually, the biggest accusation was that we were too strict. I have to say we were too strict on criminals, that's for sure. maybe even, as I said, we were strict and maybe even sometimes too strict. Maybe we should have liberalized some kind of policies faster, which I mean we are doing it anyway, because the problem is that we decreased crime 5 or 6 times, but we quadrupled prison's population. So it was the price to be paid for law and order. And of course, then you have the system, and there are always some kind of space for abuse, although much less than it was under previous systems. But still, you know, there are